Finally, what the hell? What was that made of? Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would upcycle furniture that I've bought at the car boot sale. And this is actually a video I've been wanting to do for absolutely ages. But I knew it would take us a very long time to create all of these things, so I've just been putting it off and off. But I'm finally doing it today. So if you're not from the UK, you might not be familiar with what a car boot sale is. And it's basically where a bunch of people go to a big field and just sell their unwanted shit out the back of their car, aka a car boot sale. And then stupid people like me wander around and buy their tat. But sometimes you can find some really good stuff there. If you're ever in the UK, I would highly recommend just going and visiting one. Anyway, let's head to the car boot sale and see what I can find. Okay, so I've just pulled up to the car boot sale and I've been up quite early this morning so I could get here in time. Looking at it at the moment, it doesn't look too busy, so I'm a little bit worried that I might not get the furniture that I want. I just hope I don't go in there and all I can find is like people's used knickers and like old Disney DVDs or some shite like that. I need some decent furniture, but we'll have a wander in and we'll see what we can find. And fingers crossed, it's a good day for the car boot sale. Okay, I've just come away for a second. I need a bit of a quiet time because it is actually quite busy. And the reason I don't want to film too much while I'm shopping is because obviously I want to haggle, I want to get the best price possible. And if I'm filming and they know I want something, then they're going to charge us even more. I've already bought this for £1. So there's quite a few other things that I want. Some weird things as well. So I'm going to do some more shopping and then I'll meet you back in the car. Okay, I'm finally done with my car boot sale shopping. I think I've spent about an hour and a half, possibly even 2 hours, just going round in circles at that car boot sale. At one point, I really wanted this lamp, and it was an absolute battered, knackered lamp. And he was wanting a £5 for it. And I was like, nah, not a chance. I was like, I'll give you £3. And he was like, nah, £5. It's already gone down from £8. I was like, yeah, whatever. So I just went away and I left it because I couldn't be arsed. I didn't even want it that, well, actually I did want it that bad. But I wasn't going to pay £5 for it. I'll show you one of the things I bought though, which I just love. It's a horse. Like, how funky is that? That is cool. I kind of don't want to do anything with this because I just like it how it is. It's a horse. I don't really understand it that very much. I think it's a horse printed onto wood and then it's varnished or resined or something. But how nice is that? Aww. I might do something with it though. I'll have a think. But I'm definitely gonna need a good few weeks to figure out what I'm doing, to buy some additional materials. But I've got a couple of really good ideas. So I'll meet you back in the studio and I'll let future Ant do the rest. And just like that, I'm back. So in total, I bought 5 things to upcycle. 4 of them have worked, 1 of them's been a fail, but we'll get into that in a bit. Okay, so for the first piece of furniture I want to upcycle is this mirror that I bought. And I think it only cost me about £7. It wasn't a lot. You get a lot of mirror for your money. And my idea for this one is I've seen some mirrors online where they've painted on the actual mirror and they've done really nice illustrations and stuff like that. Obviously my drawing and painting skills aren't as good as theirs, so I'm going to be doing a more abstract, colourful, postal kind of mirror. That's what I had in my head anyway. So because the black wooden frame didn't really fit in with this coastal kind of vibe that I had in my head, I decided to paint it in a white gloss paint. And after one coat, it was looking pretty decent. So now I decided to go over it again with another layer of white gloss paint. But this time I didn't let the paint dry because I've used a technique before where you put gloss paint on, then you put acrylic paint on, and you paint the acrylic paint into it, and usually it's supposed to give you like a crackled kind of effect. That's what I was hoping was going to happen with this mirror. So I just added several blobs of different coloured acrylic paints in blues and greens, and then went over it with a paintbrush. And I realised you can see my reflection in this mirror, and I hadn't done my hair or anything like that, and I look a little bit rough, so no comments please. And once the frame was dry, it was looking like this, and unfortunately it didn't give us the crackle effect that I was hoping for, and I feel like I might have potentially added a little bit too much paint. It's a little bit heavy, it's a little bit thick, but I couldn't do anything about it. I've already painted it. It's done. So now it was time to paint onto the mirrored surface with some glass paint. And I'm using some greens, some blues and some whites because I want to create a wavy pattern in the corner of this mirror. And I finished it, and I kind of thought it looked okay, but I also wasn't a huge fan of it. I don't know whether anyone's done that before, where they've had an amazing idea and it's come to fruition and you're just like, my idea wasn't as good as I thought. But this is what the mirror looked like beforehand, and this is what the mirror looks like afterwards. And I do think it looks coastal, and I do think it might potentially look okay in the right environment. But I also feel like I just got a bit too carried away. I had too many ideas, and I put too much onto this mirror. I feel like I should have scaled it back a bit. I think maybe if I'd done the pattern on the bottom corner and just left the frame white, that would have looked better. It's just, there's just a lot of blue and green going on. It's a lot. It's even a lot for me. I think maybe it just doesn't fit in with my decor because I have a very minimalist design in the studio and this is quite a maximalist mirror, but I think it could look right in a very, very, very specific kind of place. I think it looks better than what it did before. Before it looked awful. It was a black, horrible, chunky, very masculine mirror, and I've turned it into a beachy, coastal, seaside kind of mirror that some people will like and some people will hate. Okay, so the next piece of furniture that I bought at the car boot sale was this very chunky, dark wood chest of drawers, and it was in really good condition. I was quite surprised. Again, it was a little bit dirty, but it was a decent bit of furniture, and I think it only cost me about £10, I think. It wasn't expensive. And obviously last time I upcycled furniture, which you can see in this corner, I did it from the charity shop, and I made this very dark galaxy chest of drawers. So I was very conscious of the fact that I'd already done something like that, so I wanted to do the complete polar opposite. So very light, very airy, very elegant. So for the first step of this transformation, it was just to get the hardware off the drawers. So the little doorknobs and the little clasp thing that holds the front door closed. And I was expecting just to be able to use a screwdriver and unscrew it at the back and it all comes off. And that wasn't the case. These handles were attached with this weird two-pronged metal thing, and it was almost impossible to get it out. I struggled so hard. And you might be worried that I was going to injure myself using a chisel to try and get this off. And you were right to worry. I did in fact go through my thumb. But that's fine, I've had way worse happen to us. And after about half an hour struggling, I finally got one doorknob off. Yeah! Ha 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 ha! Oh, you little bitch. Finally, what the hell? What was that made of? And thankfully, the two other bits of hardware came off a lot easier than the first one. So after that, all I needed to do is fill in the holes with some polyfiller. Once the polyfiller was dry, I just took it outside and sanded down the excess off. And I was debating about sanding the entire chest of drawers down, but I was running out of time and I'd already done a lot of sanding on a different thing that I'd done. So I decided just to paint over the top of it with some white spray paint, and I think it'll be okay. And because I wanted this chest of drawers to be quite elegant, I decided I would gold leaf the top of it. So I just used some special metal leaf size, which is a glue for gold leaf. And by the way, I've never really done this before, so this was definitely a learning experience. So I just applied a thin layer of this glue over the top of the drawers and left that for about 20 minutes so the glue could get tacky. And then it was just the battle of sticking this gold leaf on top, and it was just such a pain in the ass. I kind of wish I'd just spray painted it gold. It took so long, it was so fiddly, and it was so messy. Bits of gold leaf was everywhere. It was all over in the studio. It's such a delicate material to work with. I hate it. But I finally got the thing covered and it was looking like this, and I think that's what it's supposed to look like. I have no idea. But because gold leaf's incredibly fragile, the next day once everything had dried and set, I decided to paint a thick layer of gloss varnish over the top of this gold leaf just to protect it a bit. And I was hoping this worked because otherwise it was going to ruin this entire thing. And once it was dry, it was looking a little bit like this, and it doesn't look as shiny as it did with just the pure gold leaf, but I still think it looks quite nice. And to finish this chest of drawers off, I added some new hardware. So I bought these really nice gold and pearlized finished doorknobs, which I think will really suit this chest of drawers. So I just drilled a new hole into the door and added this new doorknob. And for the little drawer at the top, unfortunately the screw was too big, so I just decided to super glue the other doorknob on, which will be fine, it'll work, it'll be alright. And then because I'd removed removed the little latch that held the main door closed for this chest of drawers, my idea was to add some adhesive magnet to both the door and the main part of the cabinet, and I thought that would just magnetize it to shut rather than having a little clasp. Unfortunately, it didn't work. The magnet was either too bulky or just something happened and it wasn't working. So I removed the magnet and just left it how it was. It didn't really need it anyway. It closed on its own. It was fine. I was getting sick of it. So this is what the chest of drawers looked like beforehand, and this is what it looks like afterwards. And in my mind, I think it looks a million times better. It looks so cool, a bit shabby chic, but also elegant and a little bit sophisticated. And I think I've done a good job. I'm actually quite surprised. And it's definitely the complete opposite of the Galaxy chest of drawers I did before. So I'm pretty pleased with it. Very, very happy actually, even though it was a massive pain in the ass to do. Okay, so my next upcycle project was the horse that I bought. The most unusual, it might be the most unusual purchase. I've got another thing coming up that's a little bit unusual. No, this is definitely the most unusual thing I bought. And I also came to the conclusion that I think this used to be a tabletop and someone printed a picture of a horse onto it and then varnished over the top of it and turned it into a picture. That's the only thing I can think of. It didn't make any sense otherwise. And this horse picture only cost us, I think they only charged us £1 for it. I was quite shocked. I was willing to pay more. But anyway, all I did for this one was take the hanging off the back because I didn't need that anymore. And I pre-cut 2 pieces of wood and just glued them to the back of this horse picture. And I did that because I'm going to turn this horse picture into a wall light. So I needed something that I could hang it onto the wall with, but also that it would push it away from the wall so that the lights would reflect back onto the wall, if that makes any sense. I'll show you at the end. Hopefully it's worked. And I just tidied up a little bit of the glue that was left over and left that to dry. So to turn it into this wall light, I bought these LED strip lights, and you use a remote control and you can change all the settings. You can change the colors, you can make it flash, you can make it do loads of things. It'll be so cool. And all I did was clean the area of where this strip lighting was going to stick to. And this strip lighting is really easy to use if you've never used it before. It's just self-adhesive. You take the backing off and you stick it wherever you want it to go. And I just did that all the way around. And I did 3 loops because I wanted the light to be strong enough. And then once I got to the end, I just cut it in a place where it says cut. Obviously don't cut it anywhere else. Okay, so now I think I just want to give it a little bit of a clean and buff it up a little bit. I was debating whether to do anything to the actual horse. I just couldn't bring myself to deface it. So it's a very simple idea, but I didn't want to go too crazy with this one, but it is still a little bit dusty and dirty, so I want to clean it up. And then we'll turn it on and see what it's like. Hopefully it's worked well. There we go, good as new. What should we call the horse? Someone tell me in the comments. Let's give this horse a name. Okay, I'll turn all the studio lights off so we can see what this looks like. But this is what it looked like before, which basically looks exactly what it looks like now. And here it is. How cool is that? Like, I don't really have any space for it on my wall, but you can imagine that on a wall. How awesome is that? Ah, yeah. That's so cool. I think that's a really good idea. And I like the fact that I've kept it original to what it was like before. It's just given something old a little bit more of a contemporary twist. I'm gonna have to find somewhere on my wall to use that. I'm glad I didn't deface the horse. I'm so glad. Okay, so moving on to the only proper fail I've had in this video, and it comes down to that tea tray that I bought for £1, and I didn't think this was the one that was going to fail on, to be fair, but this was going to be a very simple idea. So all I did was take it outside and spray painted it white. Unfortunately, I had my camera on the wrong setting, so you probably can't even see the tea tray. It just disappears. But you understand what I was doing. I was just spray painting it white. And then once it was dry, I wanted to do a fluid resin, alcohol ink kind of artwork on it. So I already pre-mixed my epoxy resin with some white pigment and poured that inside the tray, and that's when I realised this tray isn't waterproof, it's not sealed, so the resin was just leaking out all over the place and it was just an absolute mess, and I didn't know what to do. So I just tipped all the resin back into the cup, left it to one side, and I eventually threw it away. So this is what it looked like beforehand. And this is what I ended up doing afterwards. And in hindsight, I should have really checked to make sure it was fully sealed, but I just didn't think it was not going to be. I just thought it was going to be completely sealed and the resin wasn't going to leak out of it. And I was going to wait for the resin to set and then go in and reseal it and go back in with some more resin. Unfortunately, that was the last of my resin, and I've spent so much money on all of these different DIY projects in this video. It was just out of my budget to spend any more money on anything else. So I just had to call it a day, throw it to one side and say I'm done. And normally I would try and kind of fix it and do what I could to it. Budget just wouldn't let us. I couldn't spend any more money, I really couldn't, I'd be bankrupt. So that's the fail, that's the only fail in this video, and I'm sorry everyone. I tried my best, it was going to be a really good idea, it was going to be a really simple idea. It tripped me up, it caught me by surprise. Okay, so moving on to the final thing that I bought at the car boot sale, and it was this completely battered mannequin. However, when I saw it, I thought instantly I could turn this into a freestanding light. But this one was definitely the one that took me the longest to make. Put so much time into this. So my first step was to fill in the holes where the arms went, and I just used some regular expandable foam. I then just cut away all the excess foam and applied some polyfiller over the top just to create a very hard, smooth surface. I then took it outside and used this little rotary handsaw to basically cut from the bottom and to the top, and my idea is to thread the light fixture up from the bottom all the way through the neck and to the head to the top. That's what was supposed to happen anyway. So I did that, I was just busy away sawing. And it broke the little blade that I had, so that was unfortunate. However, I did have spares, so it wasn't a great loss. So I just carried on cutting away at the bottom of the base of this mannequin, and I eventually managed to cut this big hole out of the bottom of it. And then I realised, looking inside, that it had this weird, almost like concrete material where the neck part of the mannequin is, so it wasn't completely hollow, which I wasn't expecting at all and really threw us off. So I thought I would just carry on and cut a hole into the top of the head of this mannequin. Once that was eventually done, my idea was to use a very, very long drill bit, and I thought I would be able to drill through this weird cement kind of material that was in the neck to break it up a bit, and then I'd be able to thread the light fixture through. And I tried, and I tried, and I tried, and I couldn't get through whatever this material was, so I had to come up with something completely different. So my plan B is to saw another hole into the back of the head, and then I could thread the light fixture through the back and up through the top. So the whole bottom part was a complete waste of time. So then I just took it into the studio and threaded the light fixture through, and then filled the empty space within the head with expandable foam. Once that was all dry and set, it was time to take it outside again and start sanding it. Unfortunately, as I was sanding it, I realised this was going to take us far too long to sand the entire thing, and I just didn't have the time. So I did a little bit, and then I just thought I'm just gonna have to leave the rest. So I brought it back into the studio and polyfilled where the foam originally was, just to create a nice hard surface. I then took it back outside and sanded that down again once it had dried. And at this point it was looking a little bit like this, but I hadn't given up hope. I knew this was gonna work. I knew it was a good idea. I was gonna persevere. And if I had the time on my hands, I would have loved to have sanded the entire thing down. It just took forever to get to this point. So I decided to spray paint it in this lovely teal colour, and it actually worked okay. It kind of filled in the gaps a little bit. It wasn't perfect, but it's just gonna have to do. And I absolutely love the colour as well. And once the paint had fully dried, I brought it back into the studio, and it was just time to try and secure the light fixture at the top a bit better so it was standing upright, and I just decided to use hot glue. I thought that would be the best thing to use. It's a little bit flexible, and I could paint over the top of it. And I could have just left it how it was, but I thought it was far too plain, so I decided to buy some polka dot stickers and stick them all over this mannequin to create a polka dot pattern. Just in black and white. I was going to go for all colours, but I stopped myself. And as I was sticking these stickers on, I realised that they weren't adhering particularly well to this mannequin, so about a quarter of the way through I decided to peel them off, and I was going to paint them or do something different with it. But then I decided I just didn't have the time for that, and these stickers are just going to have to work, so I just persevered and stuck loads loads of different white and black polka dot stickers to this finished mannequin. Okay, so this is what it's looking like at the moment. And the stickers definitely are peeling off a little bit, but I just have to keep pressing them down. I should have really painted them or just bought some better stickers or something, but again, I don't have the time for it. But to complete this, I've got a light bulb. And how nice is that? That's a really funky, proper cool light bulb. And I'm just gonna put this in, and hopefully all of this DIY, this sanding, this cutting hasn't ruined my light fixture. If this light bulb doesn't work, I am going to be absolutely gutted. It works! Yes! Okay, so this is what it looked like beforehand, and this is what it looks like afterwards. Ah, that's so cool. I love the light. The thing is, I would give my idea and concept a 10 out of 10. I think it's a really good concept. I would just give my execution maybe like a 4 out of 10, because my craftsmanship just hasn't been the best. Like, you can still see some of the imperfections there, and some of the stickers are hanging off a little bit. You have to just keep sticking them down. But other than that, I think that's a pretty cool idea. And the fact that it was just this old beat up mannequin that was completely worthless, and now I've turned it into this light, this pretty funky light. I think anyone would be happy to have this. I'm very impressed with myself. I'm definitely patting myself on the back. You can't see it because I've got a camera in my hand. And because I've got a camera in my hand, I'm not doing it. But I'm going to give myself a pat on the back when I can. That just about does it for today's video of me upcycling furniture from the car boot sale. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And let me know down in the comments which upcycled DIY project was your favourite. And I'll see you next week for a brand new video.